The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the bustling grocery store as Sarah clutched her 4-year-old daughter Emma's hand tighter. The little girl's blonde hair was neatly braided, and despite their circumstances, Sarah had made sure Emma looked presentable in her small red coat, the only warm clothing she had that still fit properly. Sarah's heart pounded as she approached the self-checkout counter, her cart containing only the bare essentials: a loaf of bread, milk, some bananas, and a small cupcake she'd splurged on for Emma's upcoming birthday. She'd been saving every penny for weeks, working double shifts at the diner while Emma stayed with their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who refused to accept payment for watching the little girl. As Sarah began scanning items, her fingers trembled. She knew exactly how much money was in her worn wallet, $23.47, and she'd calculated the total 3 times before entering the store. Everything should work out perfectly, leaving her just enough for bus fare home. But when the screen displayed the final total, her blood ran cold. $26.89. The milk had gone up in price since her last visit. "Mama, what's wrong?" Emma asked, tugging on Sarah's gray coat, her innocent blue eyes looking up with concern. "Nothing, sweetheart. Mama's just thinking," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible above the store's ambient noise. She stared at the cupcake, knowing she'd have to put it back. Emma had been so excited when Sarah promised her a special treat for her birthday tomorrow. Behind them, a line began to form. Sarah could feel the impatient sighs and shifting feet of other customers. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as she fumbled through her purse, hoping to find some forgotten coins, but knowing she wouldn't. "I'm sorry," she said to the growing line, her voice shaking. "I just need to remove one item." She reached for the cupcake, and Emma's face crumpled with disappointment. The little girl didn't say anything, but her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away, a heartbreaking display of maturity far beyond her years. "Excuse me, miss, but you're holding up the line," complained a woman in an expensive-looking coat. "Some of us have places to be." Sarah's humiliation deepened. She fumbled with the cupcake, trying to cancel it from her order, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't navigate the screen properly. The machine kept beeping, drawing even more attention to their situation. "I'll take the cupcake back to the shelf," Sarah said quietly to Emma, kneeling down to her daughter's level. "We can get one another time, okay, baby?" Emma nodded bravely, but a single tear rolled down her cheek. "It's okay, Mama, I don't need a birthday cupcake." The words pierced Sarah's heart like a dagger. Here was her 4-year-old daughter, trying to comfort her mother and sacrificing her simple birthday wish without complaint. Sarah had to bite her lip to keep from crying right there in the middle of the store. That's when a deep, gentle voice spoke from behind them. "Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice you're having some trouble." Sarah turned around to see a man in his late 30s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray coat and scarf. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his kind eyes held genuine concern rather than judgment. Despite his obviously expensive clothing, there was something warm and approachable about his demeanor. "I'm sorry for holding up the line," Sarah said quickly, her face flushing even redder. "I'm just trying to remove an item." "No need to apologize," the man said softly. He knelt down to Emma's level, and his face broke into a warm smile. "And what's your name, little princess?" "Emma," the girl replied shyly, still clutching her mother's hand. "Emma, that's a beautiful name. And I see you picked out a very special cupcake there. Is it for a special occasion?" Emma looked up at her mother uncertainly, then back at the kind stranger. "Tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 5 years old. That's a very important birthday indeed." He stood up and looked at Sarah with understanding eyes that held no pity, only respect. "Ma'am, would you allow me the honor of covering your groceries today?" "I'd consider it a privilege." Sarah's first instinct was to refuse. She'd worked hard to maintain her dignity despite their circumstances, never asking for handouts or charity. But something about this man's approach, the way he spoke of it as an honor and privilege rather than charity, made her hesitate. I can't accept that," she said, though her voice wavered. "Thank you, but we'll be fine. I'll just put the cupcake back." The man nodded thoughtfully. "I understand your hesitation, truly I do. But sometimes, accepting kindness is actually a gift we give to others. My name is David Chen, and I've been blessed in my life." Nothing would make me happier than helping a mother provide for her daughter on her birthday eve. He paused, then added quietly, my own mother raised me alone when I was young. I remember how hard she worked, how much she sacrificed. She was proud like you, never wanted to accept help. But there were people who helped us along the way, and those acts of kindness, they didn't just help us survive. They taught me the importance of paying it forward. Sarah looked at Emma, who was watching the interaction with wide, curious eyes. She thought about all the nights she'd lain awake worrying about money, about Emma's future, about whether she was providing enough for her daughter. Here was a stranger offering genuine kindness, not condescension. Why? Sarah asked simply. Why would you do this for strangers? David smiled, and there was something deeply authentic about it. Because once, a stranger did something similar for my mother and me. Because that little girl deserves her birthday cupcake. And because sometimes, the universe puts us exactly where we need to be to help each other. Before Sarah could respond, David had already stepped forward to the checkout screen. May I? Still stunned by his kindness, Sarah nodded. David quickly completed the transaction, adding his own card to pay for everything. But he didn't stop there. Emma, he said, turning to the little girl again, since tomorrow is your 5th birthday, I think this cupcake might be lonely. What do you think about adding a few more treats to the celebration? Without waiting for an answer, he guided them to the bakery section of the store. Emma's eyes grew wide as saucers as she saw the display of colorful cakes, cookies, and pastries. Pick out anything you'd like for your birthday party, David said gently. But we're not having a party, Emma said matter-of-factly. It's just me and Mama. David exchanged a meaningful look with Sarah. Well, sometimes the best parties are the ones with just the people who love us most. What do you say we make sure you have enough treats for a proper celebration? Under David's encouragement, Emma carefully selected a small birthday cake decorated with pink roses and rainbow sprinkles. She also chose some colorful balloons that David insisted on adding to their growing collection. As they walked back toward the front of the store, David continued talking with Emma about her birthday plans, asking about her favorite color pink, her favorite animal unicorns, and what she wanted to be when she grew up, a teacher like Mrs. Rodriguez's daughter. Sarah watched in amazement as this stranger treated her daughter with the same attention and respect he might show an important business associate. There was no condescension, no performative charity, just genuine interest in a little girl's dreams and excitement. At the exit, David handed Sarah the receipt and shopping bags, then knelt down one more time to speak with Emma. Emma, I want you to promise me something, he said seriously. When you grow up and become that teacher you want to be, remember to always be kind to children who might not have as much as others. Can you do that for me? Emma nodded solemnly. I promise, Mr. David. Good girl. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a business card, handing it to Sarah. My contact information is on there. I own a company here in the city, and we're always looking for hardworking, dedicated people. If you're ever interested in a different opportunity, please don't hesitate to call. Sarah looked at the card. David Chen, CEO, Chen Industries. Her heart nearly stopped. She'd heard of Chen Industries. It was one of the most successful companies in the region, known for its innovative technology and, she'd read, for its exceptional employee benefits. I don't know what to say, Sarah whispered, overwhelmed by the magnitude of his generosity. Say you'll call if you need anything, David replied simply. And say you'll have a wonderful birthday celebration tomorrow. As they prepared to leave, Emma suddenly broke away from her mother and ran back to David, wrapping her small arms around his legs in a fierce hug. Thank you for my birthday cake, Mr. David, she said, looking up at him with pure gratitude and joy. David's eyes misted over as he hugged the little girl back. Thank you, Emma, for reminding me of what's truly important. 6 months later, Sarah was working as a customer relations coordinator at Chen Industries, with full benefits and a salary that allowed her to provide Emma with everything she needed and more. She'd called the number on David's card not immediately. Her pride had made her wait a few weeks, but when Emma had gotten sick and Sarah couldn't afford to miss work to take her to the doctor, she'd finally reached out. David had arranged for her interview personally, and she'd been hired based on her own merits, her experience in customer service, her work ethic, and her natural empathy. He'd never once mentioned their first meeting during the professional process, allowing her to maintain her dignity and earn her position. On Emma's 6th birthday, Sarah was able to throw her daughter a real party, complete with friends from her new school, decorations, and a beautiful cake. As Emma blew out her candles, Sarah caught sight of a familiar figure watching from across the park. David Chen, who had quietly arranged for the park pavilion to be available for their party and had anonymously provided some of the decorations. When Emma spotted him, she ran over with a piece of cake. "Mr. David, you came to my birthday party. I wouldn't miss it," he said warmly, accepting the cake. "Are you having a wonderful day?" "The best day ever," Emma declared. "And Mama says it's because kind people like you make the world better." Sarah approached them, her eyes shining with gratitude and tears. "Thank you," she said quietly to David. "For everything. For seeing us as people worthy of kindness when we couldn't see it ourselves." David smiled, the same warm, genuine smile from that day in the grocery store. "Thank you for teaching me that sometimes the greatest gifts come in the smallest packages, and that kindness is never wasted when it's given from the heart." As Emma ran back to her friends, cake in hand and joy radiating from every inch of her small frame, both adults understood that their chance meeting had changed all their lives in ways that extended far beyond that single act of generosity. It had restored faith, created opportunity, and proven that compassion has the power to transform not just circumstances but hearts. The little girl who had once faced disappointment at a checkout counter was now surrounded by friends, celebrating in abundance. And the businessman who had simply chosen kindness over indifference had rediscovered the profound satisfaction that comes from using success to lift others up. In a world that often seems harsh and uncaring, their story stood as a testament to the truth that genuine human connection and unexpected kindness can indeed change everything.